So probably first memories is through mom. We sat through, I think, a Catholicism class. We were quite young, but that was, I don't recall we didn't go through the full program, but that was sort of the very first that I remember. And then beyond that, when we were living with Dad, so I was about 11 and 12, I became friends with Pam Bridewell, and Pam's family was really heavily into the Church of the Nazarene. I started going to church with them, and we went to the biggest event of all was going to church camp, where I was baptized, and so I was like 12, and it was a really good experience. It was really fun.
Maybe 6th, 7th grade, I started going to like a girls' GMG, Girls Meeting God, and so I ended up being baptized to that program. And then my mom and I went several times as I got a little bit older.
I grew up in Long Island, and my parents are immigrants from England and Ireland here to America, and we grew up in a Catholic tradition, so Irish Catholic background, and I was raised in that, so that's what I knew growing up. And then when I was about 18, I worked with a guy named Steve Holman at an ice cream shop, and he talked to me about having like a personal relationship with God. Up to that point, I'd gone through religious instruction classes and first confirmation, all that kind of stuff, and first communion, confirmation, confession, all those things. So I'd gone through all that, and was confirmed in the Catholic Church, but I rarely attended church. It really wasn't a big part of my life. And then met Steve, and we just got asking a lot of questions. I was asking him a lot of questions, and that would probably be the time that I really came into knowing the Christian faith and understanding who Jesus was and my relationship to him. There's a sense in all of us that at some point we recognize maybe there's something beyond our existence, right? Like there's something about life. Maybe it's these existential questions of what happens after death, or why are there not necessarily good people, but why are there such evil people in the world, and what explains those kind of things? And those kind of questions can really push you around and kind of haunt you. And I think that they lead you to investigate and to look into things.
I think that society, sometimes, especially in older times, needs to have something that brings them together, and something that they can give their problems, struggles through life to, unburden themselves. And I think that's I think that for the most part it makes people their best. It also kind of sets a system of rules in place of how we should conduct ourselves. So does that answer your question? That's what
Yeah. Religion, I tend to categorize them a little differently. I believe in spirituality, and then organized religion, and which centers around really the Word of God. So there's different forms of the Word of God and different religions around the world, and I think perhaps in organized religion they're trying to reach a collective consciousness about what you were talking about, what's all good, sort of set of rules to follow, which I think are semi-similar in different religions, but it can be also a source of, or cause a source of fighting in between, because which one's right and which one isn't. But I think organized religion as a whole is meant to do good for the whole of mankind.
If somebody were looking in on it, I would say there's a sense in all of us that at some point we recognize maybe there's something beyond our existence, right? Like there's something about life. Maybe it's these existential questions of what happens after death, or why are there not necessarily good people, but why are there such evil people in the world? And what explains those kind of things? And those kind of questions can really push you around and kind of haunt you. And I think that they lead you to, to investigate and to look into things. And what I found with Christianity and the biblical view of God in a very basic way is from Genesis and the creation of man and the Garden of Eden, all the way through to even the New Testament and probably to the book of Revelation. I see there's a God who is our creator and has been pursuing us in the garden, pursuing Adam and Eve, and even today, and pursuing us and trying to bring us into relationship with him, kind of connecting us back with our creator. And when we have that connection, it changes who we are. It changes how we look at the world, because we're looking at the world from a different perspective because of interaction with him. And that change leads to things like purpose and things in life, and an understanding of why things happen the way they do in life. In that connection and in that relationship with God, I see Christianity as being one, again, where God is pursuing us and reaching down to us, and not expecting us to do something in order to have that relationship. And the way it's couched is in love, and that God loves us and pursues us and desires us to be in relationship with him.
Growing up, I never thought about organized religion. Most of my family were definitely strong Christians. A lot of background in my community were Christians. And I never thought about if there was any kind of structure. Did think about, of course, that if I lied or if I didn't go to church, that I was in trouble with God. But when it started becoming more understanding about organized religion is when I got married. My husband, he was not religious at all, but I was still considered a Christian. And so I went to many churches, and they all turned me down. And it just had to do with their rules and regulations and what they considered was the best marriage. And it was very frustrating, and I just didn't understand because of, I thought I had that kind of background.
I think things like love, and I know these are like somewhat cliche, but love and relationships are, I think, really at core. And love, relationship, service, humility, sacrificial living, selflessness. Those are, I think, core values that kind of stem from having a relationship with God and pursuing Christ in our humanity and in our imperfections and things like that. And so in our teaching, we try to teach people to reconcile their relationships, to be forgiving, and be merciful, be humble in their interactions, in their business dealings, in the way that they interact with their kids, and that full orb type of thing.